She only wanted to save a dog. That's it. A quick, kind act with zero consequences. Then the owner shows up, a too serious veterinary surgeon with way too much control, and that "I have a schedule for breathing" vibe. The dog, completely unbothered, decides it now has two homes. And suddenly custody exchange becomes the most chaotic and weirdly intimate event of the week. The afternoon sun filtered through the windows of Bennett & Associates Publishing as Nora Bennett squinted at her computer screen, red pen poised over yet another manuscript that desperately needed her attention. At 29, she'd been a copy editor and proofreader for 6 years, and while she loved her job, Fridays always felt eternal. Her eyes burned from staring at poorly constructed sentences all day. 3 more hours, she muttered to herself, stretching her arms above her head. Just 3 more hours and then freedom. Freedom, in Nora's case, meant her volunteer shift at Hopeful Paws Animal Shelter. It was the highlight of her week. The place where she could pour all the love and care she sometimes felt was wasted on her non-existent dating life. Her last relationship had ended 8 months ago when her boyfriend decided he was too young to settle down at 32. Nora had decided she was perfectly fine being single, mostly fine. Okay, sometimes fine. She had shoulder-length chestnut hair that she rarely bothered to style properly, preferring a messy bun that seemed perpetually on the verge of falling apart. Her green eyes were her best feature, or so her best friend Emma constantly reminded her, though Nora herself never paid much attention. She dressed for comfort, jeans, simple tops, sneakers that had seen better days. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. Finally, the clock hit 5. Nora practically sprinted out of the office, her canvas tote bag bouncing against her hip as she made her way through downtown Portland's Friday evening crowd. The shelter was only a 20-minute walk, and she enjoyed the exercise. She was 2 blocks away, mentally planning which dogs she'd walk first when she spotted him, a golden retriever, sitting alone on the sidewalk outside Morrison's pharmacy. No leash, no owner in sight. Nora's heart clenched immediately. How could someone just leave a dog like that? She looked around frantically, but the street was busy with people hurrying home for the weekend. No one seemed to be looking for a lost pet. If this story is touching your heart, show your support, leave a like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. Every action helps us keep bringing you new stories full of emotion. "Oh, no, no, no," she whispered, already crossing the street. "Poor baby. Did someone abandon you?" The dog looked up at her with soulful brown eyes and wagged his tail slightly. He was gorgeous, well-groomed, healthy-looking, with a shiny golden coat. But that didn't matter. What mattered was he was alone. Nora crouched down, and the dog immediately nuzzled her hand. Her heart melted completely. "Okay, sweetheart. You're coming with me. I'm going to find you a good home, I promise." She checked for a collar. There was one, expensive-looking, but the tag only had a name, Biscuit. No phone number, no address. Typical irresponsible owner behavior. "Biscuit? That's your name?" She scratched behind his ears. "Well, Biscuit, you're safe now." Without a leash, she had to improvise. She pulled her cardigan from her bag, fashioned it into a makeshift lead, and gently coaxed the dog to follow her. He came willingly, tail wagging, tongue lolling happily. Nora felt triumphant. Another rescue. Another life saved from negligent owners who didn't deserve such a wonderful animal. What she didn't see was the tall figure emerging from the pharmacy 3 minutes later, prescription bag in hand, stopping dead in his tracks. Aaron Mitchell stood frozen on the sidewalk, his brain refusing to process what his eyes were telling him. The spot where he'd left Biscuit, his perfectly trained, perfectly obedient dog who'd been going to the pharmacy with him for 3 years, was empty. "Biscuit?" His voice came out strangled. "Biscuit?" Panic exploded in his chest. Aaron Mitchell didn't panic. He was a veterinary surgeon, for God's sake. He dealt with life-and-death situations daily at his clinic. He was calm, controlled, methodical. But this was Biscuit, his sister Hannah's last gift before she died. The only family he had left. Biscuit! People were staring, but Aaron didn't care. His 6'3" frame was suddenly clumsy as he spun around, amber eyes scanning desperately in every direction. His dark hair fell across his forehead as he ran a shaking hand through it. He burst back into the pharmacy. "Did anyone see my dog?" Golden retriever just outside? The pharmacist, Mr. Morrison, who knew him well, looked concerned. Someone took him? Aaron, I'm so sorry I didn't see anything. Wait, he called to his assistant. David, didn't you look outside a few minutes ago? A young man emerged from behind the counter. Yeah, I saw some woman walking away with a golden retriever. Brown hair, jeans, had the dog on some kind of... Was that a sweater? Aaron's jaw clenched. Which direction? Toward Maple Street. Aaron was already running. His mind raced as his feet pounded the pavement. Who takes someone's dog off the street? Biscuit was trained. He knew to wait. He never wandered. This made no sense. Unless... God, what if someone stole him? Purebred golden retrievers weren't cheap. What if this was planned? He pulled out his phone and called his best friend Marcus while still running. Aaron? What's wrong? Someone took Biscuit, right off the sidewalk outside Morrison's. His breath came in sharp bursts. What? How is that possible? I don't know. I was inside for maybe 7 minutes, and when I came out he was gone. Morrison's assistant saw a woman walking away with him toward Maple. Okay, calm down. Let me help. I'm calling the police. No, wait. Morrison has security cameras. I'm going back. 20 agonizing minutes later, Aaron stood in the pharmacy's back office, watching grainy footage on a small monitor. There, a woman approaching Biscuit. She crouched down, petted him, looked around briefly, then fashioned some kind of leash from her clothing and walked away with him. Can you zoom in? Aaron's voice was deadly calm now, the panic replaced by cold fury. The image cleared enough to show her face, pretty in a girl next doorway, completely unsuspecting, completely criminal. David, Aaron called to the assistant. You said she went toward Maple. Do you know her? David leaned in to look at the screen. Oh, yeah, I think she volunteers at Hopeful Paws, the animal shelter on Maple. I've seen her walking dogs around the neighborhood before. Aaron's eyes narrowed. What's the shelter's address? 1247 Maple Street. But Aaron, maybe she thought she could steal my dog. Aaron was already heading for the door, jaw set, amber eyes blazing. I'm getting him back. Now. Nora was singing to Biscuit as she filled out the intake forms at the shelter, completely oblivious to the storm heading her way. You're going to love it here, she cooed. Mrs. Patterson will take such good care of you until we find your forever home. A real forever home with people who won't abandon you. Biscuit wagged his tail and licked her hand. The doorbell chimed. I'll get it, Nora called to Mrs. Patterson, who was in the back organizing supplies. She walked to the front entrance with Biscuit trotting happily beside her and pulled open the door. A mountain of a man stood on the doorstep. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing dark jeans and a fitted Henley that showed off muscular arms. Dark hair slightly messy, amber eyes intense and fixed directly on her. His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle ticking. He was, objectively speaking, the most attractive man she'd ever seen in person. He was also, clearly, absolutely furious. That, he said, his voice low and dangerous, pointing at Biscuit, is my dog. Nora blinked. Then her protective instincts kicked into overdrive. Your dog? She stepped slightly in front of Biscuit. The dog you abandoned on a sidewalk. His eyes widened. Abandoned? I was inside the pharmacy for 7 minutes. 7 minutes is plenty of time for something to happen. Nora's voice rose. He could have been hit by a car, or stolen by someone with bad intentions, or... Stolen? He let out a harsh laugh. Like you did? I rescued him. He didn't need rescuing. They were both shouting now, faces flushed, standing toe-to-toe in the shelter doorway. Biscuit sat between them, tail wagging, looking from one to the other like he was watching a tennis match. This was going to be interesting. Biscuit is a trained service animal, Aaron started, but Nora cut him off with an incredulous laugh. Service animal? He doesn't have a vest. There's no identification on his collar except his name. He doesn't need a vest because he's not working right now, and his microchip has all my information. Aaron could feel his blood pressure rising. Who was this infuriating woman? If you'd bothered to check instead of kidnapping him... I did not kidnap. Oh my God, did you just accuse me of kidnapping? Nora's cheeks flushed red. I saved him from negligent owners. Negligent? Aaron's voice cracked slightly. He took a breath, trying to regain his composure. Lady, I'm a veterinary surgeon. I own Mitchell Animal Medical Center. That dog has a better diet, exercise routine, and healthcare plan than most humans. Nora faltered for just a second. Mitchell Animal Medical Center. She'd heard of it. It was the most prestigious veterinary clinic in Portland. But she recovered quickly, crossing her arms. Then maybe someone as busy and important as you shouldn't have a dog if you can't properly supervise him. Aaron's jaw dropped. We've done that pharmacy run every Friday for 3 years. He knows to wait. Well, clearly he doesn't, Nora gestured wildly, because here he is with me, safe and sound, because I actually care about animal welfare. You care about... Aaron pinched the bridge of his nose. He was going to have an aneurysm. This woman was going to give him an actual aneurysm. Ma'am, I spend 12 hours a day caring for animals. I literally save their lives. What do you do? I'm a volunteer here, for your information, Nora shot back. Every Friday and Saturday, like clockwork, because I actually make time for creatures who can't speak for themselves. They were nose to nose now. Well, nose to chest, because he had nearly 10 inches on her, both breathing hard, eyes blazing. Aaron could smell her shampoo, something floral and sweet that completely contradicted her combative personality. And then Biscuit did something that made both of them freeze. He pressed his body against Nora's legs and whined softly, looking up at her with those soulful brown eyes. Then he turned to Aaron and wagged his tail, then back to Nora, then to Aaron, as if saying, I like both of you. Why are you fighting? Aaron felt his anger deflate slightly. Biscuit never acted like this. He was a one-person dog, Aaron's dog. But right now he was looking at this stranger like she'd been feeding him filet mignon for years. Nora's expression softened too as she looked down at the dog. She crouched and scratched behind his ears. It's okay, sweet boy. We're not really fighting. We're just discussing. Discussing, Aaron repeated flatly. But his voice had lost its edge. Nora stood back up, and something shifted between them. The fury was still there, simmering, but now there was something else. Confusion. And maybe, just maybe, a flicker of mutual understanding that they'd both been acting ridiculous. Look, Aaron said, running a hand through his hair again, a nervous habit he'd never been able to break. I understand that from your perspective it might have looked concerning, but Biscuit is extremely well trained. He was in no danger. From my perspective, a dog was alone on a sidewalk in downtown Portland on a Friday evening, Nora countered, but her voice was calmer now. I've seen too many animals dumped at shelters or abandoned. I reacted on instinct. An instinct that involved stealing someone's pet, rescuing someone's pet. They glared at each other, but it was half-hearted now. Exhaustion was setting in. Mrs. Patterson chose that moment to emerge from the back room, took one look at the scene. Nora flushed and defensive, a tall, angry man filling the doorway, and Biscuit happily between them, and immediately assessed the situation. Oh dear, she said calmly. I take it this is the owner? Yes, Aaron said. Allegedly, Nora muttered. Aaron shot her an incredulous look. Allegedly. We should verify. Biscuit. Heel, Aaron commanded quietly. The dog immediately moved to Aaron's left side and sat perfectly, eyes up, attention focused. Textbook obedience. Nora's mouth snapped shut. Biscuit shake, Aaron said. The dog offered his paw, first to Aaron, then, without prompting, to Nora. She automatically took it, her expression flickering with something she couldn't name. Satisfied? Aaron asked, but his tone was less biting now. Nora opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. He's really well trained. I know. And you're really his owner. I know. And I really messed up. Aaron almost smiled. Almost. Spectacularly. They stood there in awkward silence. Mrs. Patterson watched with barely concealed amusement. I'm sorry, Nora finally said, the words clearly difficult for her. I thought I was doing the right thing. Aaron sighed and his shoulders dropped. I'm sorry too for yelling. You were trying to help. Another silence. Biscuit whined again and pawed at Nora's leg. That's odd, Aaron said slowly, watching his dog. He never does that. Does what? Seeks attention from strangers. He's friendly, but not like this. Nora crouched again, and Biscuit immediately pressed against her, tail wagging frantically. When she stood, the dog looked between them again, that same pleading expression. Mrs. Patterson, who'd been married for 40 years before her husband passed, and knew a thing or two about both love and compromise, cleared her throat. "May I make a suggestion?" Both of them looked at her. "The dog seems quite attached to both of you, and you've both been through a stressful evening." She smiled gently. "Perhaps you could share custody for a short while. Give Biscuit time to adjust, and give you both time to calm down." "Share custody?" Aaron and Nora said simultaneously, then looked at each other. "That's insane," Aaron said. "Completely ridiculous," Nora agreed. Biscuit whined and wagged harder. They looked down at him, then back at each other. "1 week," Aaron said reluctantly. "Trial period, to prove he's perfectly fine with me." "Fine," Nora said, lifting her chin. 1 week, to prove he deserves better than being left unattended." They shook hands, both gripping perhaps a bit too firmly, eyes locked in mutual challenge. Neither noticed Mrs. Patterson's knowing smile as she watched them. This was definitely going to be interesting. 10 minutes later, they stood outside the shelter exchanging phone numbers with all the enthusiasm of people scheduling root canals. "So," Aaron said stiffly, typing her contact information into his phone, "how exactly is this going to work?" "I'll keep him tonight and tomorrow," Nora said, matching his formal tone. "You can pick him up Sunday morning, then we alternate every few days." "Sunday morning, fine. What time?" 10. "I have rounds at the clinic at 9. Make it 11. 11, Nora confirmed, then paused. "Does he have any dietary restrictions I should know about?" Aaron pulled out his phone and, with the efficiency of someone used to giving detailed medical instructions, began listing off information. "He eats twice daily. Exactly 2 cups of premium grain-free kibble mixed with a 1/4 cup of wet food. The brands matter. I'll text you the details. No table scraps, no processed treats. He gets 1 dental chew after dinner. Fresh water always available. Changed twice daily." Nora stared at him. "You're joking? I'm a veterinarian. I don't joke about animal nutrition. He's a dog, not a patient in the ICU. Proper nutrition is the foundation of good health. A little variety won't kill him. Studies show that consistent diet prevents digestive issues and—" "Oh my God," Nora interrupted. "You're actually going to lecture me about dog food right now?" Aaron's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to ensure my dog's well-being while he's in the care of someone who thinks rescuing means dog-napping. You know what? Fine. Send me your detailed instructions, Dr. Mitchell. I'll follow them to the letter." "Good. Great." They glared at each other again. Biscuit sat between them, tail sweeping the sidewalk, completely unbothered by the tension. "Anything else?" Nora asked tersely. "Yes. He sleeps in his bed. Not on furniture and definitely not on beds." Nora's eyes widened. "You don't let him on the couch?" "It's not about letting him, it's about maintaining boundaries and structure. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's called proper training. It's called being a control freak." Aaron took a deep breath, clearly struggling for patience. "Ms. I don't even know your last name." "Bennett. Nora Bennett. Ms. Bennett. Biscuit has had consistent rules and routines his entire life. Disrupting that for a week is already going to be stressful for him. I'm simply trying to minimize that stress." Nora felt a small twinge of guilt. When he put it that way, she could almost see his point. Almost. "Fine. I'll try to keep his routine. But if he wants to cuddle on the couch, I'm not going to traumatize him by saying no." "Cuddle on the—" Aaron stopped himself, clearly deciding this battle wasn't worth fighting. "Just try. Please." The please surprised her. His voice had softened just a fraction, and she caught a glimpse of something underneath all that rigid control. Genuine concern for his dog. Love, even. "I will," she said, her tone gentler. "I promise I'll take good care of him." Their eyes met, and for a moment the antagonism faded. Aaron saw the sincerity in her green eyes, the way she unconsciously reached down to pet Biscuit's head. She really did care about animals. She'd just gone about it in the most infuriating way possible. Nora saw the tension in his shoulders ease slightly, the protective fierceness in those amber eyes. He really did love this dog. He was just incredibly uptight about it. "Okay then," Aaron said finally. "Sunday, 11. "Sunday, 11? Nora repeated. Aaron crouched down and Biscuit immediately pressed against him, tail wagging. "Be good, boy," he murmured, scratching behind the dog's ears. in exactly the spot that made Biscuit's eyes close in bliss. "I'll see you soon." For a moment, watching this big, intimidating man be so gentle with his dog, Nora felt something flutter in her chest. She firmly ignored it. Aaron stood, gave her one last measuring look, and walked away. Nora watched him go, definitely not noticing how his shoulders filled out that Henley, or how he moved with surprising grace for someone so tall, and then looked down at Biscuit. "Well, buddy," she said, "looks like we're roommates for the weekend. What do you say we get you some real treats and forget all those silly rules?" Biscuit wagged his tail. Nora had no idea that 2 blocks away, Aaron was mentally composing a list of emergency protocols to text her, while simultaneously wondering why the image of her indignant face kept popping into his mind. This was going to be a very long week. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, and Nora woke to find 70 pounds of golden retriever sprawled across her legs, his head resting on her stomach. "So much for not sleeping on the bed," she muttered, but couldn't help smiling as she scratched Biscuit's ears. He opened one eye, yawned magnificently, and burrowed closer. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. No, wait. She'd saved it last night. Aaron Mitchell. "Good morning." Biscuit's morning routine. Wake at 6:30 a.m., immediate bathroom break, 15-minute walk. Breakfast at 7 a.m. sharp. Interactive play session with puzzle toys from 7:38 am. Please confirm receipt of this message. Nora stared at her phone. It was 8:47 a.m. She typed back, "He's fine, still sleeping, very comfortable." The response came within seconds. "Still sleeping. He never sleeps past 6:45. Well, today he slept until 8:30. Revolutionary, I know. Did you take him out immediately?" "Relax, doctor." "Mitchell. He went out, did his business, and now he's back in bed. Where dogs belong. Dogs don't belong in bed." Nora grinned wickedly and snapped a photo of Biscuit sprawled across her comforter, looking utterly content. She sent it without comment. Her phone rang immediately. She answered with a cheerful, "Good morning." "Ms. Bennett." Aaron's voice was strained. "We discussed this. We discussed a lot of things. I don't remember signing a legally binding contract. He's going to expect that treatment when he comes home. Or," Nora said sweetly, "he'll just enjoy his little vacation and be perfectly fine returning to his regular schedule. Dogs are adaptable, unlike some people." There was a long pause. "Are you calling me inflexible? If the obsessively organized shoe fits." "I'm not—" He stopped, took an audible breath. "You know what? Fine. Do whatever you want. But when he develops behavioral issues, don't blame me. He won't develop behavioral issues from a little affection. A little affection is fine. Letting him think he runs the household is not. Oh my God, you're actually worried he'll stage a coup." "I'm worried about consistency." Nora laughed despite herself. There was something almost endearing about how seriously he took this. Almost. "Look, I promise I'm not trying to undermine your training, but it's one weekend. Let him be a little spoiled." Another pause. When Aaron spoke again, his voice was quieter. "He's all I have left of her." The words hit Nora unexpectedly. Her? But Aaron seemed to realize what he'd said, because he quickly added, "I need to go. Rounds at the clinic. Please, just try to keep some structure." "I will," Nora said, but he'd already hung up. She stared at her phone, that last sentence echoing, "He's all I have left of her." Who was her? A girlfriend? Ex-wife? The questions tumbled through her mind as she got out of bed, Biscuit trailing after her hopefully. "Come on, buddy," she said, shaking off her curiosity. "Let's get you some breakfast, and maybe a few treats that aren't on the approved list." At Mitchell Animal Medical Center, Aaron was having difficulty concentrating. "Dr. Mitchell." Linda, his head veterinary technician, waved a hand in front of his face. "Earth to Aaron. Mrs. Henderson is waiting in room 2. "Right, sorry." Aaron shook himself. He'd been staring at his phone for the past 5 minutes, at that photo of Biscuit looking obscenely comfortable in that woman's bed. In Nora's bed. "You okay?" Linda asked, her tone knowing. At 45, she'd worked with Aaron since he'd opened the clinic 8 years ago, and she could read him like a book. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine." "Uh-huh. Does this have anything to do with the panicked phone call yesterday about Biscuit?" "Someone took him. Someone rescued him, from what Marcus told me." Linda grinned. "Pretty thing too," he said. "Brown hair, green eyes, very passionate about animal welfare. Aaron shot her a look. Marcus has a big mouth. Marcus is worried about you. We all are. You spend every waking hour here, go home to an empty house. I have Biscuit. A dog isn't company, honey. Not the kind you need. I don't need... Aaron stopped himself. This was a conversation he'd had with Linda, Marcus, and several other well-meaning people over the past 5 years, ever since Hannah died. Mrs. Henderson? Room 2, Linda repeated, but she was smiling in that maddening way that suggested she knew something he didn't. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of appointments. A cat with a urinary tract infection, a rabbit needing its nails trimmed, a very dramatic beagle who acted like vaccination was attempted murder. Aaron loved his work. It was predictable, methodical, and he was good at it. Animals made sense. They had needs, you met them, everyone was happy. Unlike infuriating women who stole your dog and then let it sleep in their bed. He checked his phone at lunch. Nora had sent another photo. Biscuit wearing what appeared to be a bandana with tiny hearts on it, looking directly at the camera with his tongue out. He made a friend at the shelter. This is his new look. Aaron didn't know whether to laugh or throw his phone. He settled for texting back. Please tell me that's not permanent. Relax, it's just a bandana. He looks adorable. He looks ridiculous. You look ridiculous. He looks happy. Aaron stared at that message. Then, before he could stop himself, he typed, "How would you know what I look like?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I have eyes. You're very tall." He almost smiled. Was that her way of saying he was attractive? No, definitely not. She was just stating a fact. Tall. Like saying the sky was blue. Is that your professional assessment? Professional dog rescuer? Yes. Very tall. Probably hits his head on door frames. I've never hit my head on a door frame. There's still time. This was ridiculous. He was texting with a woman who dog-napped Biscuit less than 24 hours ago. A woman who was currently violating every routine he'd carefully established. A woman who... His phone buzzed again. Another photo. This one showed Biscuit lying on his back, paws in the air, with Nora's hand scratching his belly. He could see her legs in the frame. Yoga pants, bare feet with painted toenails. "Someone's happy," the caption read. Aaron looked at his dog's blissful expression and felt something in his chest loosen. Biscuit did look happy. Ridiculously, completely happy. "Fine," he typed. "You win this round." This round? This is a competition. Everything's a competition. That explains so much about you. Who are you texting? Marcus's voice made Aaron jump. His best friend stood in the doorway, arms crossed, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. No one. Really? Because you've been staring at your phone for 20 minutes with this weird little smile. I don't have a weird little smile. You definitely do. It's the same smile you had when Hannah got you those tickets to the Blazers game for your birthday. Marcus's expression softened at the mention of Aaron's sister, but his eyes remained curious. So, the dog thief, how's that going? She's not a... We're sharing custody, temporarily. Sharing custody, that's very mature of you. It was Mrs. Patterson's idea. And you agreed because Biscuit seemed attached to her. Aaron pocketed his phone. It's only for a week. Then everything goes back to normal. Marcus studied him for a long moment. You sure about that? Why wouldn't I be sure? Because, buddy, you've barely talked to a woman outside of work for 5 years, and now you're co-parenting a dog with one who's pretty, feisty, and clearly gets under your skin. She doesn't get under my skin. You've checked your phone 17 times. I'm monitoring Biscuit's well-being. Right, Biscuit's well-being, not the pretty brunette who's currently snuggling with him. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. For what it's worth, I think this is good for you. There's no this. It's a temporary arrangement. Keep telling yourself that. Marcus headed for the door, then paused. By the way, Kelly and I are having people over for dinner next Saturday. You should bring her. We're not... But Marcus was already gone, leaving Aaron alone with his thoughts and his phone, which buzzed again. Question. Does Biscuit like peanut butter? Aaron closed his eyes. In moderation. Why? Because I'm making homemade dog treats and want to know if he'd prefer peanut butter or pumpkin. You're making homemade dog treats. Don't sound so shocked. Some of us enjoy cooking. I'm not shocked. I'm just... What was he? Confused, frustrated, oddly charmed against his will. Just make sure you check which ingredients are safe for canine consumption. Already did. I'm not completely irresponsible, Dr. Mitchell. I never said you were. You heavily implied it. I was concerned about my dog. And now? Aaron stared at that question. Now? Now he was concerned about why he kept finding excuses to keep texting her. Now I'm cautiously optimistic you won't poison him with good intentions. Wow, such faith. I'm honored. Despite himself, Aaron smiled at his phone. This woman was going to drive him completely insane. He was almost looking forward to it. Almost. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of anxiety Aaron usually reserved for complex surgeries. He'd barely slept, kept checking his watch, and changed his shirt 3 times before Marcus texted, "It's just picking up your dog, calm down." Aaron glared at his phone. He was calm, perfectly calm. The fact that he'd spent 20 minutes deciding whether to bring coffee as a peace offering meant nothing. He settled on plain coffee. 2 cups, 1 black for him, 1 with cream and sugar because somehow that seemed like what Nora would drink. Then he second-guessed himself and almost turned around twice before finally pulling up outside her apartment building at 10:58 a.m. She lived in a converted Victorian in northwest Portland, all colorful paint and window boxes with flowers. It was charming, in an eclectic, slightly chaotic way that seemed very on-brand for someone who made impulsive dog rescue decisions. He climbed the stairs to apartment 2B and knocked. The door flew open before his knuckles finished the second knock. Nora stood there in an oversized sweater that slipped off one shoulder, her hair in that messy bun that seemed to be her signature look, no makeup, and possibly the most genuinely happy smile he'd ever seen directed at another human being. No, at him. She was smiling at him. "You're early," she said, stepping aside to let him in. "I'm 2 minutes early. That's not—" He stopped as Biscuit barreled into his legs, tail wagging so hard his entire back end moved. Aaron crouched, letting his dog lick his face, feeling the knot in his chest finally loosen. "Hey buddy, miss me?" "He was fine," Nora said, but her voice was softer now. "Really, we had a great weekend." Aaron looked up at her from his crouched position. "I brought coffee." Peace offering for being uptight? Controlling? Neurotic? I was going to say cautious. Sure you were. But she was smiling as she took the cup he offered. She took a sip, and her eyes widened. "How did you know I take cream and sugar?" He shrugged, standing. Lucky guess. It wasn't a guess. He'd noticed everything about her in those few minutes at the shelter. The way she moved, talked, cared. Cream and sugar just seemed right. But he wasn't about to admit that. Nora's apartment was exactly what he expected, and somehow more. Books everywhere, stacked on tables, shoved into overflowing shelves, piled on the floor. A cozy couch covered in a knitted throw, photos on the walls of her with friends, with animals from the shelter. Plants in varying states of health on the windowsill. It was warm, lived in, the opposite of his meticulously organized space. "So," Nora said, leaning against her kitchen counter. "Verdict? On what? On whether I corrupted your dog beyond repair?" Aaron looked at Biscuit, who was currently sitting between them, looking from one to the other like he was watching a tennis match again. "He seems happy." "That's not an answer." "That is an answer. He seems well-adjusted and happy. You clearly took good care of him." Nora's smile grew. "Did that hurt?" "Admitting I did something right." "Physically?" "A little." But he was almost smiling too. "Thank you. For taking care of him, and for the homemade treats you sent me photos of at midnight." "You were awake at midnight?" "Couldn't sleep. Surgery tomorrow morning. Today, actually. And I was reviewing the case files." "On a Sunday?" "Emergencies don't take weekends off." Nora studied him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You really love your work." "I do." "And you really love this dog?" "I do," Aaron repeated, softer now. They stood in comfortable silence, both looking at Biscuit, who seemed to sense the shift in energy and wagged his tail hopefully. "So," Nora said finally, "your turn with custody. When do I get him back? Wednesday? If that works for you?" "Wednesday's perfect. I have the evening shift at the shelter anyway." She crouched to give Biscuit a goodbye hug, and Aaron watched the way his dog leaned into her, the way her fingers tangled in his fur with easy affection. "Be good for your dad, okay? And remember, Couches are for sitting on. Aaron opened his mouth to argue, then thought better of it. Pick your battles. Same meeting spot? 11 a.m.? Actually, Nora stood, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear in a gesture that seemed unconscious and entirely too distracting. Maybe we could do the handoff at the park. Washington Park has that great dog area. Biscuit could run around a bit first. It was a good idea. A practical idea. So why did Aaron's first thought involve wondering if this was her way of wanting to spend more time with him? That works, he said. Wednesday at 11, Washington Park. Great. She walked him to the door, Biscuit trailing behind. Oh, and Dr. Mitchell. Aaron, he said before he could stop himself. You can call me Aaron. Her smile turned softer, more genuine. Aaron, try to let him on the couch at least once this week. Trust me. I'll think about it. Liar. He definitely didn't smile as he left, and he definitely didn't check his phone 17 times over the next 3 days. The Wednesday arrived with unexpected rain, the kind of persistent Oregon drizzle that made everything grey and damp. Nora almost texted to reschedule, but something stopped her. Maybe the fact that she'd been looking forward to this more than she wanted to admit. She arrived at Washington Park 5 minutes early, umbrella in hand, and found Aaron already there with Biscuit. He stood under a large oak tree, water dripping from the leaves around him, looking like some kind of brooding romance novel cover. Which was ridiculous. She didn't read romance novels much. You're early again, she called, jogging over. Habit. He looked at her umbrella. I should have thought of that. You can share. The words came out before she thought them through, and suddenly they were standing close together under her small umbrella, shoulders almost touching, both acutely aware of every inch between them. Biscuit, freed from his leash, took off running toward the dog park area. He's excited, Nora said, grateful for something to focus on besides Aaron's proximity and the way he smelled like rain and something woodsy. He always is here. It's his favorite. Aaron stopped mid-sentence. Biscuit? Nora followed his gaze and her heart dropped. A cat, a very unfortunate, very wet orange tabby, had darted across the field, and Biscuit, in a moment of pure instinct overriding training, took off after it like a golden bullet. Biscuit, stay! Aaron's voice cracked with authority, but the dog was already disappearing into the tree line. Oh no! Nora dropped the umbrella and started running. Biscuit! Aaron was faster, his longer legs eating up the ground, but Nora kept pace through sheer determination. They crashed through bushes, calling the dog's name, rain soaking through their clothes. He never does this, Aaron panted, branches whipping at their faces. He has perfect recall, he never— Less talking, more running, Nora shouted. They emerged onto a side trail, muddy and slick. No dog in sight. Split up, Aaron decided. You go left toward the rose garden. I'll go right toward the Japanese garden. Call me if you find him. Okay. Nora's heart was pounding, partly from running, partly from the look of barely controlled panic on Aaron's face. We'll find him, I promise. Their eyes met for a heartbeat, and Aaron nodded once before taking off. Sayasin Urtin to 2 hours later, soaked to the bone, covered in mud and hoarse from shouting, Nora trudged through the parking area near the zoo entrance. She'd searched every path, called every shelter, and was beginning to feel genuinely frightened. Her phone rang. Aaron. Any luck? She asked without preamble. No. I've covered the entire west side. I'm heading back toward— Wait. I see something. His voice changed. Relief flooding through. Nora. He's here. Corner of Taylor's Ferry and Kingston. There's an ice cream shop and he's asleep on the doormat. I'm coming. She was already running. She found them 10 minutes later. Aaron was sitting on the ground next to the shop's entrance in the rain, with Biscuit's head in his lap. The dog was completely content, tail thumping lazily, like this was all a grand adventure. I'm going to kill him, Aaron said, but his hands were gentle as they stroked Biscuit's damp fur. I'm going to absolutely kill him. No, you're not. Nora dropped down next to them, not caring that the sidewalk was wet and cold. You're going to hug him and be grateful he's safe. I've been looking for 2 hours. 2 hours, Nora. I thought— His voice cracked. I thought I lost him. Without thinking, Nora reached out and covered Aaron's hand with hers. But you didn't. He's right here. Safe and sound and probably dreaming about that cat. Aaron looked at their hands, then at her face. His amber eyes were intense, searching, and Nora suddenly became very aware of how close they were sitting, how his shoulder pressed against hers, how the rain had plastered his hair to his forehead in a way that should have looked ridiculous, but somehow didn't. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for helping me look. You didn't have to." "Of course I did. She stopped. What was Biscuit to her? She'd known this dog for less than a week, but already, somehow, he felt important. They both did. "He's important." "Yeah," Aaron agreed, his voice rough. "He is." They sat there in the rain, shoulders touching, hands still connected, with Biscuit between them, and when Aaron's thumb traced a small circle on the back of her hand, probably unconsciously, probably meaning nothing, Nora felt her heart do a complicated flip she absolutely wasn't ready to analyze. "We should get him home," she said, but didn't move. "Yeah," Aaron repeated, but he didn't move either. It was Biscuit who finally broke the moment, standing and shaking water all over both of them, effectively drenching them even more. They looked at each other and laughed. Real, honest laughter that felt like a release of all the tension and fear. "Come on," Aaron said, standing and offering her his hand. "Let's get this troublemaker dried off. Both of you can come to my place, it's closer. I'll make coffee." "Real coffee? Or your version of coffee, which is probably scientifically calibrated for optimal caffeine delivery?" "Mock me all you want. My coffee is excellent." "I wasn't mocking. I was stating facts." "Sure you were." They walked back to the parking area, Biscuit trotting happily between them on his leash, completely unbothered by the chaos he'd caused. And if their hands brushed together more than strictly necessary, well, that was probably just the rain making them clumsy. Probably. Aaron's house was nothing like Nora expected. Clean, yes, organized, absolutely, but not cold. The living room had warm wood floors, comfortable furniture, and, surprisingly, photos everywhere. Most were of a woman who looked like a female version of Aaron. Same dark hair, same smile, same amber eyes. "That's Hannah," Aaron said quietly, following her gaze as he handed her a towel. "My sister. She's beautiful." Nora accepted the towel, noting the past tense. "Is she—" "She died 5 years ago. Car accident." He said it matter-of-factly, but his jaw tightened. "Biscuit was her dog originally. She gave him to me 6 months before she died. Said I needed someone to take care of." The pieces clicked into place. "He's all I have left of her." "Aaron, I'm so sorry." Nora touched his arm without thinking. "I didn't know. How could you?" He looked down at her hand on his arm, and something flickered across his face. "It's why I was so—" He trailed off. "Panicked when he was gone," Nora finished softly. "I understand now." They stood in his living room, both dripping wet, Biscuit already sprawled on a dog bed by the fireplace, and the air between them felt different, heavier, more real. "The coffee," Aaron said finally, breaking the moment. I should make that coffee." "I'll help." His kitchen was impressive, top-of-the-line appliances, everything in its place. Nora watched him move with practiced efficiency, pulling out mugs, measuring coffee grounds with precision. "You really do calibrate everything, don't you?" she teased gently. "Consistency produces the best results." But there was a hint of humor in his voice now. "Unlike some people who just wing it. Winging it is an art form. It's chaos. Creative chaos." He handed her a mug, and their fingers brushed. This time, neither of them pulled away immediately. "For what it's worth," Nora said, "I think Hannah would be happy knowing Biscuit has you." Aaron's expression softened. She'd probably laugh at this whole situation, the custody arrangement, the arguments about dog food, all of it. She always said I needed someone to shake things up. Well, I'm excellent at shaking things up, I've noticed. He was almost smiling now, and Nora realized she was staring at his mouth. Her phone buzzed, shattering the moment. "Emma. Lunch tomorrow? Need to hear about the hot dog thief situation." Nora typed back quickly. "Not a thief, long story. Yes to lunch." "Everything okay?" Aaron asked. "Just my friend Emma. She wants the full story about our—" Nora gestured between them. "Whatever this is." "Co-parenting arrangement." "Right, that." They sipped their coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, and weak sunlight filtered through the windows. "I should probably go," Nora said reluctantly. "Let you both rest." "Actually," Aaron set down his mug, looking oddly nervous. "My friend Marcus, he's having a dinner party Saturday. He insisted I invite you, as a thank you, for helping today." Nora's heart did that complicated flip again. "A dinner party? It's casual, just friends, you can say no." But she didn't want to say no. Despite everything, the arguments, the differences, the complete incompatibility, she wanted to say yes. She wanted to see him outside of dog custody exchanges. She wanted to know if this feeling in her chest was real or just adrenaline from the search. "I'll come," she said, "on one condition." "What's that?" "You admit that Biscuit looked happy sleeping in my bed." Aaron's lips twitched. He looked comfortable. Not the same thing. Fine. He looked happy. There. Satisfied? Immensely. Nora grinned. "Text me the details?" "I will." At the door they stood awkwardly, neither quite sure how to say goodbye. Finally, Nora went up on her toes and kissed his cheek, a quick, impulsive gesture that left them both frozen. "For the coffee," she said quickly, "and for today." Then she was gone, leaving Aaron standing in his doorway, one hand pressed to his cheek where her lips had been, wondering what the hell just happened. Inside, Biscuit wagged his tail knowingly. "Don't look at me like that," Aaron told the dog. "It was just a thank you. Nothing more." Biscuit's expression clearly said otherwise. And deep down, so did Aaron's racing heart. "You kissed him?" Emma nearly spit out her wine at their Thursday lunch. "On the cheek. It was just a friendly thank you kiss," Nora hissed, looking around the bistro to make sure no one overheard. "There's no such thing as a friendly thank you kiss when you've been texting the guy non-stop for a week. We were coordinating dog custody. At midnight? About whether Biscuit prefers peanut butter or pumpkin?" Emma raised an eyebrow. "That's not custody coordination, that's flirting." Nora opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Was it flirting? The late-night texts had become a routine. Aaron would send her updates about his day at the clinic. She'd respond with photos of whatever she was proofreading. Sometimes they argued about dog training methods. Sometimes they just talked. "He invited me to dinner at his friend's house," Nora admitted. Emma's eyes widened. "Meeting the friends? That's serious." "It's not serious. He said it was a thank you for helping find Biscuit." "Nora," Emma leaned forward, "the man owns the most prestigious veterinary clinic in Portland. He's gorgeous, successful, and clearly into you. What's the problem?" "The problem is, we argue about everything. He's controlling and uptight and has a color-coded filing system for his dog's medical records. And you're spontaneous and chaotic, and probably have 17 unread books on your nightstand. 23, actually. My point exactly. You balance each other out." Emma took a sip of wine. "When's the dinner?" "Saturday." "What are you wearing?" "I don't know. What do you wear to meet a guy's friends when you're not dating but also kind of maybe interested?" Emma grinned wickedly. "That emerald dress, the one that makes your eyes pop." "That's too much." "It's perfect, trust me." Saestiin on Saturday evening found Aaron in his bedroom trying on his fourth shirt, while Marcus's voice echoed from the phone on speaker. "It's just dinner. Wear anything. You said to bring her. You didn't say Kelly invited half of Portland. It's 8 people, Aaron. Relax." "I don't relax." Aaron pulled off the navy button-down and reached for a grey Henley. "And why did you tell everyone I'm bringing someone?" "Because you are. And because everyone's curious about the woman who stole your dog and your attention." "She didn't steal my—" Aaron stopped. There was no point. Marcus had decided this was a thing, and nothing would convince him otherwise. "Just be yourself," Marcus said. "The self that actually smiles occasionally. I've seen it happen, usually when you're texting her." Aaron hung up and stared at his reflection. When had he become this person? This anxious, shirt-changing, constantly checking his phone person. The doorbell rang at exactly 7. Of course she was punctual. He opened the door and forgot how to breathe. Nora stood there in a green dress that brought out her eyes, her hair actually styled for once, wearing heels that made her almost tall enough to reach his shoulder. She looked nervous and beautiful, and nothing like the woman who'd yelled at him in a sheltered doorway. "Hi," she said, fidgeting with her purse. "Is this okay?" Emma said it was okay, but now I'm thinking maybe it's too much and I should have worn jeans and— "You look beautiful," Aaron interrupted, then immediately wanted to take it back because her cheeks flushed pink and he couldn't stop staring. "Oh, thank you. You look not terrible yourself." He laughed. Actually laughed. High praise. I'm nervous, she admitted. Meeting your friends feels very date-like? Yeah. They stood in his doorway looking at each other, the unspoken question hanging between them. Is this a date? We should go, Aaron said finally, before Marcus calls again to ask where we are. He's called already. 3 times. Nora laughed, and the tension broke. Aaron offered his arm, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. As they walked to his car, neither acknowledged how right it felt, how her hand fit perfectly in the crook of his elbow, how he shortened his stride to match hers, how she leaned slightly into his warmth, but they both noticed. And in Marcus's house, watching from the window, Kelly turned to her husband with a knowing smile. $20 says they're together by the end of the month. I'll take that bet, Marcus replied. I give them 2 weeks. Marcus and Kelly's home was warm and inviting, filled with laughter and the smell of roasted garlic. The moment they walked in, Marcus appeared with a grin that made Aaron immediately suspicious. You must be Nora, the infamous dog thief. Rescuer, Nora corrected automatically, shaking his hand. And you must be the friend who won't stop texting Aaron about me. Marcus's eyes widened with delight. Oh, I like her already. Kelly, she's perfect. A petite woman with kind eyes appeared, swatting Marcus's arm. Ignore him. He has no filter. I'm Kelly, and welcome. She pulled Nora into a quick hug. We're so glad you could come. Within minutes, Nora was swept into the kitchen with Kelly and 2 other women, Sarah and Michelle, while Aaron was dragged to the back porch by Marcus and the other husbands. So, Kelly said, pouring wine, how did you really meet? Nora launched into the story, watching their expressions shift from shock to amusement. By the time she got to the custody arrangement, all 3 women were laughing. That's the most Aaron thing I've ever heard, Sarah said, wiping her eyes. A custody agreement for a dog. He sent me a spreadsheet, Nora admitted, with feeding times, exercise schedules, and approved treat brands. Of course he did. Kelly shook her head fondly. He's been like that since college. Everything organized, everything controlled. It drove Hannah crazy. Nora's ears perked up. You knew his sister? Kelly's expression softened. She was my best friend. That's how Marcus and Aaron met, through us. Hannah was... She paused, choosing words carefully. She was light and chaos and joy, everything Aaron isn't. But they balanced each other perfectly. What happened to him? Nora asked quietly. After she died. He shut down, Kelly said simply. Threw himself into work, avoided anything emotional, stopped dating entirely. We've been trying to get him back out there for years, but he always refuses. Until now. The 3 women looked at Nora with expressions that made her squirm. This isn't... We're not dating, it's just a custody thing. Sure, Michelle said with a knowing smile. That's why he checked his appearance in 3 different mirrors before you arrived. Marcus told us. Nora's heart fluttered. He did. Oh, honey. Kelly touched her arm gently. We haven't seen Aaron smile like this in 5 years. Whatever this is, don't run from it. Yahov on the porch. Aaron was getting similar treatment. She's gorgeous, Marcus said bluntly, and funny. And she clearly calls you on your control freak tendencies. We're just co-parenting Biscuit. Right. And I'm just casually married to Kelly. Marcus handed him a beer. Aaron, buddy, you've texted her more in the past week than you've texted me in the past year. That's different. How? Aaron didn't have an answer. How was it different? The late-night conversations, the photos, the way his chest tightened when she smiled, none of that was custody-related. I don't know how to do this, he admitted quietly. It's been so long. And what if I mess it up? What if I'm too closed off, too damaged? Then she'll call you on it, like she does with everything else. Marcus clapped his shoulder. Stop overthinking. Just be with her. See what happens. Dinner was a revelation. Nora fit into the group effortlessly, trading stories and jokes, asking genuine questions about everyone's lives. Aaron watched her charm his friends, his family really, and felt something shift in his chest. At one point, she caught him staring and raised an eyebrow. What? She mouthed. Nothing, he mouthed back, but he was smiling. After dessert, they ended up on the back porch alone, overlooking the garden strung with fairy lights. Your friends are wonderful, Nora said softly. They like you. Kelly already asked when we're coming back. Really? Really? Aaron turned to face her. The lights caught in her hair, and he was struck again by how beautiful she was. "Nora, Aaron." Marcus stuck his head out. "Sorry, but you've got an emergency call from the clinic. Linda says it's urgent." The moment shattered. Aaron pulled out his phone, already switching into doctor mode. "I have to go, surgery emergency." "Of course, go." He hesitated, looking at her. "I'll call you tomorrow?" "I'll be waiting." As Aaron rushed out, Nora stood alone on the porch, wondering what he'd been about to say and why her heart was racing at the possibility. Tuesday afternoon found Nora at the Pearl Bistro with Emma, celebrating her friend's latest article publication. They'd been laughing over pasta when Nora glanced toward the entrance and froze. Aaron had just walked in, wearing a navy suit that made him look unfairly attractive. His hair was styled, his jaw freshly shaved, with a blonde woman in a red dress. "Oh no," Emma said, following her gaze. "Is that—" "Yeah." Nora's stomach twisted into knots. "That's Aaron." She watched him hold out the woman's chair, sit across from her, smile politely. The woman, tall, beautiful, clearly successful, leaned forward with interest. "Maybe it's a work thing," Emma suggested weakly. "At the Pearl. This is Portland's most romantic restaurant." Nora grabbed her wineglass, gripping it too hard. "It's fine, we're not together. He can date whoever he wants." "Nora, I mean it. We're just sharing custody of a dog, that's all." But her eyes kept drifting back to his table, and every time her chest tightened a little more. Aaron was in hell. The woman across from him, Jessica, he'd already forgotten, was perfectly nice, attractive, intelligent, worked in pharmaceutical sales. Exactly the kind of woman Marcus insisted he should meet. Marcus had set this up 3 weeks ago, before Nora, before everything changed. Aaron had tried to cancel, but Marcus wouldn't let him. "You already committed," his friend had argued. "One dinner. If there's no spark, fine. But you need to get back out there." There was definitely no spark. Jennifer, was talking about her recent trip to Cabo, and Aaron nodded at appropriate intervals while his mind wandered to Nora. How she'd looked in that green dress, how she'd laughed at Marcus's terrible jokes, how she'd stood on that porch and he'd almost— "Aaron?" Jennifer touched his hand. "Did you hear me?" "Sorry, yes, Cabo. Sounds great. I asked what you do for fun." "I work mostly and I have a dog." "Oh, I love dogs. What kind?" "Golden Retriever. His name is Biscuit. Actually, funny story." He stopped, because the funny story involved Nora, and he realized with startling clarity that every interesting thing in his life lately involved Nora. That's when he saw her, 3 tables away, wearing jeans and a simple sweater, hair in that messy bun, laughing at something her friend said. She looked beautiful and comfortable and exactly like herself. Their eyes met across the restaurant. Her expression shuttered immediately. She looked at Jennifer, then back at him, and something like hurt flashed across her face before she masked it with a too bright smile. She raised her wineglass in a mock toast and turned deliberately away. Aaron's chest constricted painfully. "Sorry, I need to excuse me." He stood abruptly, leaving a confused Jennifer at the table. But by the time he reached Nora's table, she and her friend were already standing, preparing to leave. "Nora, wait. Don't let us interrupt your date. Dr. Mitchell." Her voice was cool, polite, distant. "Enjoy your evening. This isn't what it looks like. It looks like dinner, which is exactly what it is. No explanation needed." She grabbed her purse. "Come on, Emma." "Nora, please." She finally looked at him, and the hurt in her eyes made his stomach drop. "You don't owe me anything, Aaron. We're not together. You can date whoever you want." "I don't want to date her." The words came out louder than intended. Several nearby diners looked over. Emma's eyebrows shot up. Jennifer appeared at his elbow, looking confused. "Aaron, is everything okay?" Nora's jaw tightened. "Seems like you have company. We should go." She brushed past him, and he caught her wrist gently. "Let me explain, please." "There's nothing to explain." But her voice wavered slightly. "Enjoy your date." She pulled free and walked out, Emma trailing behind with an apologetic look. Aaron stood in the middle of the restaurant, torn between running after her and dealing with the woman he'd essentially abandoned at their table. Marcus was going to kill him, but more importantly, he'd hurt Nora. and that felt infinitely worse than any awkward social situation. He turned back to Jennifer, already forming an apology, knowing this dinner was over and not caring one bit, because the only woman he wanted to have dinner with had just walked out the door. Aaron called Nora 17 times that night. She didn't answer once. He texted, "Please let me explain." No response. It was a setup. Marcus arranged it weeks ago. I tried to cancel. Nothing. I don't care about her. I only care about you. Read receipt. But still no reply. By Wednesday morning, Aaron was desperate enough to show up at her apartment with coffee and apologies. She wasn't home. He tried the shelter. Mrs. Patterson said she'd called in sick, which meant she was avoiding him. He deserved it. "You look terrible," Linda said when he arrived at the clinic, dark circles under his eyes from lack of sleep. "I messed up. With the dog custody girl." Linda's expression softened. "What happened?" "She saw me at dinner with someone else. A blind date I'd agreed to before I met her. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen." He slumped against the reception desk. "Linda, I really like her. More than I've liked anyone in years, maybe ever. And I ruined it." "Did you tell her that?" "I tried. She won't answer my calls." "Then you need a bigger gesture." Linda pulled out her phone. "What's her address? I'm getting you out of here for lunch, and you're going to fix this." Nora spent Wednesday morning crying into Biscuit's fur. Aaron had dropped the dog off the night before, left him tied to her doorknob with a note that just said, "Please take care of him," and hadn't stayed to talk, which was fine. Perfect, actually, because she didn't want to see him, except she did. Desperately. "This is stupid," she told Biscuit, who licked her face sympathetically. "We're not even dating. I have no right to be this upset." But she was upset, because somewhere between the arguments and the coffee and the late-night texts, she'd started falling for him, and seeing him with someone else, someone beautiful and put together and probably perfect for him, had shattered something inside her chest. Her doorbell rang. Nora ignored it. Probably Emma checking on her again. It rang again. And again. Then her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Linda from Mitchell Animal Medical Center. Dr. Mitchell is outside your door and refuses to leave until you talk to him. Please put us all out of our misery." Despite herself, Nora almost smiled. She dragged herself to the door and opened it. Aaron stood there looking as wrecked as she felt. Rumpled shirt, messy hair, those amber eyes full of something that made her heart stutter. "You look awful," she said. "I haven't slept. Can I come in?" She should say no, should maintain her dignity and close the door in his face. But Biscuit was already pushing past her to greet Aaron, and somehow that felt like permission. "Fine, 5 minutes." Aaron followed her inside, and they stood in her living room with all the awkward tension of strangers. Except they weren't strangers. They'd shared custody and coffee and rain-soaked searches. They'd texted until midnight and laughed over homemade dog treats. They'd almost kissed on a porch under fairy lights. "I'm sorry," Aaron said finally. "The date was arranged by Marcus 3 weeks ago. I told him I didn't want to go, but he wouldn't let me cancel. Said I'd already committed. I was going to suffer through dinner and never see her again. You don't owe me an explanation." "I do." "Because, Nora, the entire time I was sitting there, I was thinking about you. About how I'd rather be arguing with you about dog food than having a perfectly polite conversation with someone I don't care about." He took a step closer. "I left that date, apologized to Jennifer, paid the bill, and left, because the only person I want to have dinner with is you." Nora's breath caught. "Aaron, I'm not good at this, at feelings and relationships and being vulnerable. After Hannah died, I shut down. It was easier to control everything, my schedule, my work, even Biscuit's routine, than to risk caring about something and losing it." His voice cracked slightly. "But then you stormed into my life, stole my dog, and turned everything upside down. And I'm terrified, Nora, because I'm starting to care about you a lot, and I don't know what to do with that." She stared at him, heart pounding. "You're starting to care about me?" "More than starting. I think about you constantly. When something happens at the clinic, you're the first person I want to tell. When Biscuit does something ridiculous, I take a photo for you. When I wake up, I check if you've texted." He ran a hand through his hair, looking vulnerable and lost. "I'm falling for you, and it's completely terrifying, and I'm probably doing this all wrong, but I needed you to know. The silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility. "You're an idiot," Nora said finally. Aaron's face fell. "I know." "I'm sorry, I'll go." "You're an idiot because I'm falling for you too, and you almost ruined it by going on that stupid date." She closed the distance between them. "You drive me crazy with your schedules and your control issues and your perfectly organized life. But you also make me laugh, and you saved the shelter without telling me, and you look at your dog like he's the most important thing in the world." "He was," Aaron said softly, "until I met you." "That's the corniest thing I've ever heard." "I know, was it too much?" "Maybe a little, but I liked it anyway." They stood inches apart, both afraid to move, to breathe, to ruin this moment. "Can I kiss you?" Aaron asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I thought you'd never ask." He cupped her face with both hands, thumbs stroking her cheeks, and kissed her. Soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she'd disappear. But when she sighed against his mouth and wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him closer, the kiss deepened. It was everything, desperate and sweet, passionate and tender, full of all the feelings they'd been fighting for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Aaron rested his forehead against hers. "I'm still sorry about the date." "You should be. You're going to make it up to me." "How?" Nora smiled. "Take me to dinner. A real date, just us." "Tonight?" "Tonight." And when Aaron kissed her again, Biscuit wagged his tail approvingly from the couch, clearly pleased with himself for bringing them together. Their first official date was supposed to be perfect. Aaron had made reservations at Canard, researched the menu, even bought new shoes. He was determined to do this right. What he didn't anticipate was the emergency call 30 minutes before he was supposed to pick Nora up. "A what?" he asked Linda, already grabbing his keys. "A miniature horse. Colic. The owner is hysterical, and you're the only one she trusts." "I'm sorry, Aaron." He called Nora immediately. "I'm so sorry, I have an emergency. A miniature horse named Cupcake is—" "Did you say Cupcake?" "Yes, she's in distress, and I need to—" "I'm coming with you." "What?" "No, you don't have to—" "Aaron, I'm coming with you. Pick me up in 5 minutes." He did. And when Nora climbed into his truck wearing jeans, a hoodie, and a determined expression, Aaron fell a little more in love with her. The farm was 40 minutes outside Portland. They spent the drive talking about everything and nothing. Her work proofreading terrible romance novels, his worst veterinary cases, their shared hatred of cilantro. "It tastes like soap," Nora insisted. "Finally, someone who understands. Marcus thinks I'm insane. Marcus probably likes pineapple on pizza too." "He does. How did you know?" "Lucky guess. He has that chaotic energy." Aaron laughed, and Nora realized she'd never heard him laugh like this, free and genuine and completely unguarded. She liked it. A lot. At the farm, they found Cupcake in obvious discomfort, her elderly owner near tears. Aaron went into professional mode immediately, examining the little horse with gentle efficiency. "Mrs. Chen, she's going to be fine. It's a mild case. I can treat her here if you help me." "Of course, anything." "Actually," Aaron looked at Nora, "can you help? I need someone to keep her calm while I work." Nora had no idea what she was doing, but she nodded. For the next hour, she stood at Cupcake's head, stroking her mane and whispering reassurances while Aaron worked. His hands were steady, his voice calm, and Nora watched him transform into someone completely in his element. He was brilliant and attractive, and she was definitely staring. "You're doing great," Aaron said softly, glancing at her. "She trusts you." "How can you tell?" "Her ears are forward, relaxed. That's because of you." Their eyes met over the miniature horse, and something warm unfurled in Nora's chest. By the time they finished, it was past 10. Mrs. Chen insisted on paying double and tried to send them home with fresh eggs and homemade jam. "That was incredible," Nora said as they drove back. "The way you handled her, calmed Mrs. Chen down, fixed everything. You're really good at what you do." Aaron's ears turned slightly red. "It's just my job." "It's not just a job. You care, really care, about Cupcake and Mrs. Chen and every animal that comes through your clinic." She touched his arm. "That's special, Aaron." He was quiet for a moment. "Hannah always said I showed love through actions, not words. That I'd make a terrible poet but a great partner because I'd show up." Every time. She was right. Is that what you want? Someone who shows up? I want someone who shows up at 11 at night because a miniature horse named Cupcake needs help. Someone who brings coffee with cream and sugar without asking. Someone who argues with me about dog food, but lets me win sometimes. She smiled. I want you, Aaron, uptight, controlling, schedule-obsessed you. He pulled over on the side of the road, safely because even emotional moments required proper safety protocols, and turned to face her. I want you too. Chaotic, impulsive, dog-stealing you. His hand found hers. I know I'm not easy. I have routines and issues, and I'm probably going to drive you crazy. Probably, definitely. But I want to try. With you. If you'll have me. Nora leaned across the console and kissed him. Softer this time, slower, like they had all the time in the world. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb stroking her skin, and she melted into the warmth of him. When they broke apart, both smiling, Aaron rested his forehead against hers. This is the worst first date ever. Are you kidding? We saved a miniature horse named Cupcake. This is the best first date ever. You're not disappointed we didn't go to Canard? Aaron, I got to watch you be amazing at your job, help save an animal and make an old woman cry with relief. That's better than any fancy restaurant. She squeezed his hand. Besides, we can go to Canard next time. Next time? You think I'm letting you get away after one date? You're stuck with me now. Good. He kissed her again, quick and sweet. Because I'm not letting you go. They drove back to Portland with their hands intertwined, talking about second dates and third dates and maybe going hiking with Biscuit. It felt easy and right and like the beginning of something neither of them had expected, but both desperately wanted. When Aaron walked her to her door, he kissed her goodnight properly, long and slow and full of promise. Thank you, he whispered against her lips, for coming with me tonight, for understanding. Thank you for letting me in. She touched his face gently. All the way in. He smiled, that real unguarded smile she was becoming addicted to, and kissed her one more time before forcing himself to leave. As he drove home, his phone buzzed with a text from her. Best worst first date ever. He replied, can't wait for the second one, and realized with startling clarity that he meant it. For the first time in 5 years, he was excited about the future, about possibilities, about love, all because a woman had stolen his dog and, in the process, stolen his carefully guarded heart. 3 weeks of dating Aaron Mitchell had taught Nora several things. First, he was incapable of being spontaneous. Every date was planned down to the minute. Second, he kissed like it was his job and he was aiming for a promotion. Third, she was absolutely irrevocably in love with him, which made the news she'd just received at the shelter even more devastating. 2 weeks? Nora stared at Mrs. Patterson in disbelief. The shelter is closing in 2 weeks? The older woman's eyes were red from crying. The landlord is selling the building. We can't afford to relocate. I'm so sorry, dear. I know how much this place means to you. Nora felt like the ground had dropped out from under her. Hopeful Paws wasn't just a volunteer position, it was her sanctuary, the place where she'd found purpose and joy and, indirectly, Aaron. What about the animals? We'll transfer them to other shelters, but Mrs. Patterson's voice broke. Many are older, harder to adopt. I'm terrified of what will happen to them. Nora somehow made it through the rest of her shift on autopilot, smiling at adopters, cleaning kennels, pretending her heart wasn't shattering. She'd planned to meet Aaron at his clinic after. He had late appointments and she'd offered to wait. But now she just wanted to go home and cry. Except when she arrived at the clinic, her emotions were too raw to hide. She mumbled something to Linda about using the bathroom and locked herself in, sliding down the wall as tears finally came. She didn't hear the door open minutes later, didn't realize Aaron was there until he was sitting beside her on the cold tile floor. Nora? His voice was gentle, concerned. What's wrong? She couldn't speak, just shook her head and cried harder. Aaron did something she didn't expect. He didn't ask questions or demand explanations. He simply pulled her into his arms, tucking her head under his chin, and held her. They sat there for what felt like hours, her tears soaking his shirt, his hand stroking her hair in soothing motions. When she finally calmed enough to breathe, she told him everything. The shelter is closing. 2 weeks. All those animals, Mrs. Patterson's whole life's work, just gone. Her voice cracked. I don't know what to do. Aaron's arms tightened around her. We'll figure something out. How? I don't have the money to... Nora. He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. We'll figure it out, I promise. She wanted to believe him, but even Aaron's organizational skills couldn't fix this. 8 days later, Nora arrived at the shelter for her usual shift and found chaos. Good chaos. The parking lot was full of trucks, the building was buzzing with activity, and Mrs. Patterson stood in the center of it all, crying happy tears. What's happening? Nora asked, bewildered. Renovations, donations, someone came forward with funding for a full year's rent and building improvements. Mrs. Patterson grabbed Nora's hands. We're not closing, dear. We're expanding. What? Who? I don't know. It was all anonymous. Corporate donations, private sponsors, even a matching grant from the city. She laughed through her tears. It's a miracle. But Nora knew better. She knew exactly who would mobilize corporate donations and organize city grants with surgical precision, who had the connections and the determination and the heart to save something that mattered to her. She didn't remember driving to the clinic, didn't remember walking through the door. She only knew that when she saw Aaron standing at the reception desk with Linda, every emotion she'd been holding burst free. You saved it, she said. And he looked up. The shelter. It was you. Aaron opened his mouth, probably to deny it, but she didn't give him the chance. She ran across the waiting room, past surprised clients and barking dogs, and launched herself at him. He caught her automatically, stumbling slightly as she wrapped her legs around his waist and peppered his face with kisses. Cheeks, nose, forehead, lips. Quick, grateful, joyous kisses between words. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kiss. You saved them. Kiss. You beautiful, wonderful, ridiculous man. Kiss. Aaron's arms locked around her waist, holding her tight against him. She felt his heart pounding, felt his breath catch, felt the way his body responded to having her pressed against him. His hands splayed across her back, warm and possessive, and suddenly the grateful kisses turned into something else. Something heated. Nora pulled back slightly, suddenly aware that they were in his clinic, surrounded by people, and she was essentially straddling him in the middle of the lobby. Her cheeks flamed. I'm sorry, I was so happy. Don't apologize. Aaron's voice was rough, his amber eyes dark with something that made her stomach flip. Never apologize for this. His arms stayed around her for several long seconds, neither of them wanting to let go. She could feel the tension in his body, the way his fingers pressed into her back like he was memorizing the feel of her. I should probably get down, she whispered. Probably. But he didn't release her immediately. When he finally did, setting her gently on her feet, his hands lingered on her waist. Linda cleared her throat loudly. Well, that was interesting. The waiting room erupted in awkward laughter and a few claps. Nora wanted to die of embarrassment, but Aaron just smiled, that private smile reserved only for her, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Dinner tonight? He asked quietly, ignoring their audience. My place? I'd like that. Good. He kissed her forehead, soft and sweet. Now go celebrate with Mrs. Patterson. I'll pick you up at 7. As Nora left, she heard Linda say, Well, Doctor, that was quite the afternoon entertainment. Worth every penny, Aaron replied, and Nora's heart soared. She'd found a man who showed up, who saved miniature horses and animal shelters and broken hearts without expecting anything in return, who held her when she cried and caught her when she jumped and kissed her like she was precious. She'd found Aaron, and tonight she was going to tell him she loved him. The evening started innocently enough. Aaron had closed the clinic early, sent everyone home, and was just finishing paperwork when Marcus appeared in his doorway. Hey, can you look at something in the surgical suite? Equipment issue. Aaron followed him without question, which was his first mistake. His second was not noticing Marcus slip back out and lock the door behind them. Marcus! Marcus! Aaron rattled the handle. Nothing. He pulled out his phone. Dead battery, of course. Then he heard another door open and close, footsteps, and Nora's voice, equally irritated. Linda? This isn't funny. Let me out. They found each other in the hallway, both realizing simultaneously what their meddling friends had done. They locked us in, Nora said, stating the obvious. Apparently. Aaron tried the main door, also locked. How long do you think they'll leave us? Knowing Marcus and Linda? Hours. They stood in the empty clinic, tension crackling between them. It had been building since the lobby incident. Hell, it had been building since they met. And now they were alone with nowhere to escape. We should talk, Aaron said finally. About what? About everything. About how I feel like I'm going insane being this close to you and not being able to... He stopped himself, running a hand through his hair. I'm terrified, Nora. Of how much I want you. Of how much you've come to mean to me. After Hannah, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone in. It hurt too much to lose her. But then you came along and completely demolished every wall I'd built. Nora's breath caught. Aaron, I'm falling in love with you. The words burst out, raw and honest. Actually, I think I'm already there. I love you. And it's terrifying because what if something happens? What if I lose you too? What if... Stop. Nora closed the distance between them, her hands framing his face. Stop thinking about all the what-ifs. I'm here right now and I'm falling in love with you too. Actually, I'm already there too. His eyes searched hers. You love me? I love you. Even though you're uptight and controlling and have color-coded filing systems. I love you because you're kind and brilliant, and you saved a shelter without telling anyone. Because you show up every single time. She smiled through sudden tears. I love you, Aaron Mitchell. So stop being afraid and kiss me already. He didn't need to be told twice. Aaron's hands tangled in her hair as he kissed her like a drowning man finding air. All the restraint, all the careful control he'd maintained for weeks. It shattered. Nora responded with equal desperation, pressing against him, her fingers digging into his shoulders. I love you, he breathed between kisses. God, Nora, I love you so much. Show me, she whispered. Stop telling me and show me. The kiss deepened, turned hungry. His hands roamed her back, her waist pulling her impossibly closer. She made a small sound that drove him absolutely crazy, and he backed her against the wall, never breaking contact. They kissed until they couldn't breathe, until they were both trembling, until the door lock clicked and Marcus's voice called out, Okay, lovebirds, have we reached an understanding? They broke apart, both flushed and breathless. Aaron looked at Nora, her swollen lips, her dazed expression, the way she was looking at him like he'd hung the moon, and made a decision. Come home with me, he said quietly. Not because Marcus locked us in here, because I want you there, because I want to make you dinner and hold you and wake up next to you tomorrow. Yes, she said without hesitation. Yes to all of that. Aaron's house felt different that night, more intimate, more full of possibility. He cooked while she sat on his counter, breaking his no sitting on counters rule, but he found he didn't care, and they talked about everything and nothing. When dinner was ready, they ate on the couch, biscuit wedged between them, completely content. After they moved to his bedroom with a nervousness that felt both teenage and profound. Aaron had been with women before, but this felt different. This mattered. We don't have to, he started, but Nora silenced him with a kiss. I want to, she said simply. I want you. He undressed her slowly, reverently, his hands trembling slightly as he mapped every curve, every freckle, every inch of skin. She was beautiful, not in a magazine way, but in a real human, perfect-for-him way. You're sure? He whispered against her neck. I've never been more sure of anything. What followed was tender and intense, vulnerable and passionate. Aaron worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch into him. Nora discovered that beneath his controlled exterior was a man who felt everything deeply, who gave himself completely when he finally let go. They moved together like they'd been doing this for years, finding rhythm in whispered words and soft touches. When they finally came together fully, Aaron buried his face in her neck, overwhelmed by the intimacy of it. I love you, he breathed. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you too, she gasped, her fingers tangled in his hair. Aaron. After they lay tangled together, hearts racing, skin cooling. Aaron pulled her close, tucking her head under his chin, his hand tracing lazy patterns on her back. Stay, he whispered. Not just tonight. Stay. I'm not going anywhere, she promised. And she meant it, because she'd found home in the arms of a man who'd been terrified to love again, but had taken the risk anyway. For her. With her. Forever. The morning after was everything Nora had dreamed about and more. She woke to find Aaron already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an expression so tender it made her chest ache. "How long have you been staring at me?" she asked, voice still rough with sleep. "Not nearly long enough." He leaned down and kissed her softly. "Good morning." "Morning." She stretched, the sheet slipping slightly, and watched his eyes darken. "See something you like, Doctor?" "Mitchell?" "Everything. I like everything about you." His hand traced the curve of her hip. "Stay for breakfast. I make excellent pancakes." "You make excellent everything." Flatterer. They made breakfast together in his kitchen, stealing kisses between flipping pancakes and pouring coffee. Biscuit watched hopefully for dropped food, tail wagging whenever they laughed. It felt domestic and perfect, and exactly right. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into an easy routine. Nora spent most nights at Aaron's house, her toothbrush appearing in his bathroom, her books scattered on his nightstand. He made space in his closet without being asked, reorganizing his perfectly arranged clothes to accommodate her chaos. "You're getting soft," Marcus teased one afternoon at the clinic. "Next thing you know, you'll be proposing." Aaron laughed it off, but the word lingered. Proposing. Marriage. Forever. The concepts that used to terrify him now felt possible. With Nora, everything felt possible. They were having dinner at Marcus and Kelly's when it all fell apart. The evening started wonderfully. Good food, good wine, easy conversation. Aaron had his hand on Nora's knee under the table, and she kept leaning into him, and everything was perfect. Until Marcus, several drinks in, said, "So when are you two making it official? Kelly and I had a bet, but at this rate you'll be shacked up for years before he finally commits." It was meant as a joke, a harmless tease among friends, but Aaron felt his chest tighten, felt the familiar panic creep in. "Marcus," Kelly warned, reading the shift in Aaron's expression. "What? I'm just saying, when you know, and it's obvious you two are crazy about each other. Might as well lock it down before she realizes she can do better." Marcus grinned, oblivious to Aaron's growing discomfort. Nora squeezed Aaron's hand under the table. "We're fine taking things at our own pace," but Aaron couldn't breathe. Lock it down. Commit. Forever. What if he messed it up? What if he wasn't enough? What if he lost her the way he'd lost Hannah? He excused himself to the bathroom and didn't come back for 15 minutes. The drive home was quiet. Nora tried to engage him in conversation, but he gave one-word answers, his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Aaron, talk to me." "I'm fine." "You're clearly not fine. I just need some space. To think." The words hit Nora like a physical blow. Space to think about what? About us. About where this is going. I need time. He dropped her at her apartment with a distant kiss on her forehead and drove away before she could respond. That was on Saturday. By Monday, Nora had heard nothing. No texts, no calls, no explanation. Just silence. By Tuesday, she was furious. By Wednesday, she was done. She marched into Mitchell Animal Medical Center at 1 o'clock, right in the middle of his afternoon appointments, and told Linda she needed to see Dr. Mitchell immediately. "He's with a patient. I don't care. Get him. Now." Something in her tone made Linda move. 5 minutes later, Aaron emerged from an exam room looking tired and wrecked, and Nora felt her resolve waver. Then she remembered 2 days of silence and found her anger again. "Nora, I'm working." "You're a coward." Her voice was loud enough that several waiting clients looked over. She didn't care. "You're a coward, Aaron Mitchell. I opened my heart to you. I told you I loved you. I gave you everything. And the second someone mentions commitment, you run away like a scared child." His face paled. "That's not I didn't. You did. You absolutely did. Because you're so terrified of losing someone that you'd rather push them away first." Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Well, congratulations, you succeeded. I'm not going to sit around waiting for you to decide if I'm worth the risk. Either you want this, want us, or you don't. And if you don't, then we're done. Right here, right now." The waiting room was silent. Linda stood frozen behind the reception desk. A woman holding a cat carrier had her mouth hanging open. Aaron stared at Nora, and she could see the war happening behind his amber eyes. Fear versus love, control versus surrender. "I need more time," he said finally, and his voice was so quiet she almost didn't hear it. "No." Nora's voice broke. "You've had enough time. 5 years of time. I can't be another thing you control and schedule and plan. Love doesn't work like that. It's messy and scary, and you have to just jump in and trust that the other person will catch you. Nora, I love you, Aaron, but I can't love you enough for both of us. You have to decide to love me back, fully, without reservations." She wiped at her eyes angrily. "So decide, do you want me or not?" She turned to leave, and that's when Biscuit appeared from the back room. The dog must have heard her voice. He bounded up to her, whining, pawing at her leg, then turned and pulled at Aaron's coat, then back to Nora. The message was clear. Don't let her go. Aaron looked at his dog, Hannah's dog, the last connection to his sister, and something clicked. Hannah had given him Biscuit because she'd known somehow that Aaron would need someone to love, someone to break through his walls. She'd been preparing him for this moment. For Nora. "Wait." The word came out strangled. "Please, wait." But Nora was already walking toward the door, her shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. She pushed through the entrance and disappeared into the parking lot. Aaron stood paralyzed, Biscuit whining at his feet, Linda staring at him with disappointment clear on her face, and every client in the waiting room looking at him like he was the biggest idiot on the planet. "Well?" Linda said sharply. "What are you waiting for? Go after her." But Aaron's feet wouldn't move. The fear was too strong, too ingrained. He'd spent 5 years protecting himself, and he couldn't just turn that off in an instant. Could he? Biscuit barked once sharply and pawed at the door. "I know," Aaron told his dog miserably. "I know I'm an idiot." "Then stop being an idiot," Linda snapped. "That woman loves you, really loves you, and you love her. Everyone can see it except apparently you. What if I can't be what she needs? Then you figure it out together. That's what relationships are, but you'll never know if you let her walk away." Aaron looked at the door Nora had disappeared through, then at Biscuit, then at Linda, who was looking at him like a disappointed mother. Then he made his decision. It took him the rest of the afternoon to cancel his appointments, close the clinic early, and plan what he needed to do. By the time the sun started setting, Aaron was standing outside Nora's apartment building, Biscuit beside him, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He knocked on her door. No answer. He knocked again. "Nora, please, I know you're in there. I can hear you moving around." Silence. Then finally the door opened a crack. She looked wrecked, eyes red, face blotchy, wearing sweats and an old t-shirt. She'd never looked more beautiful to him. "What do you want, Aaron?" "Can I come in, please?" She hesitated, then opened the door wider. He and Biscuit entered, and the dog immediately went to her, pressing against her legs in comfort. They stood in her living room, the space between them feeling like miles. "I'm sorry," Aaron said. "I'm so sorry, Nora. You were right. About everything. I'm a coward. I was so scared of losing you that I almost lost you anyway by pushing you away." "Aaron!" "No, let me finish. Please." He took a shaky breath. "When Hannah died, I promised myself I'd never care about anyone that much again, because it hurt too much. But then you came along and made me break every promise I'd made to myself. You made me feel again, laugh again, hope again, and yes, that terrified me." Tears were streaming down Nora's face now. "But I realized something today, watching you walk away. Being without you hurts more than any fear I have. Losing you, even the possibility of it, is worse than anything I've been trying to protect myself from." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Not a ring box. Something else. "What is that?" "Open it." With trembling hands, Nora opened the box. Inside was a key, a house key. "I know this isn't traditional," Aaron said, his voice rough with emotion. "I know I'm supposed to do this with flowers and candlelight and some grand romantic gesture, but I can't wait. I can't spend another night without knowing that you're coming home to me." He dropped to one knee and Nora gasped. "Nora Bennett, will you officially be my girlfriend? Will you move in with me and Biscuit? Will you let me love you the way you deserve to be loved, messily and imperfectly, but completely?" His eyes were bright with tears. Will you take a chance on me? You're asking me to be your girlfriend while kneeling? I'm asking you to be everything. Girlfriend, partner, my person, the woman I want to wake up next to every morning for the rest of my life. He smiled through his tears. I love you, Nora. I love your chaos and your impulsiveness and the way you steal dogs off sidewalks. I love how you make me laugh and challenge me and make me want to be better. I love you so much it terrifies me, but I'm choosing love over fear. I'm choosing you. Nora dropped to her knees in front of him, cupping his face in her hands. You're such an idiot. I know. You made me cry for 2 days. I know. I'm sorry. You're going to have to grovel. A lot. I will. Every day if necessary. She laughed through her tears. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'll be your girlfriend. Yes, I'll move in with you. Yes to all of it. She kissed him hard. But if you ever go silent on me like that again, I'm keeping the dog in the breakup. Deal. He pulled her closer, kissing her like he'd never let go. I love you. I love you too, even though you're a disaster. I'm your disaster. Yeah, she smiled against his lips. You are. Biscuit, satisfied that his humans had finally sorted themselves out, barked happily and wagged his tail so hard his entire body shook. He'd done his job, brought them together, kept them together, and would continue to be the goodest boy in their love story. As Aaron and Nora held each other on her apartment floor, both crying and laughing and kissing, they knew this was just the beginning. The best was yet to come. 4 months later, on a crisp autumn Saturday, Aaron led Nora through Washington Park with Biscuit trotting ahead on his leash. The leaves were turning gold and crimson. The air smelled of wood smoke and possibility, and Nora was completely oblivious to the fact that Aaron's hands had been shaking all morning. Where are we going? She asked, laughing as Biscuit pulled them toward a familiar path. This isn't our usual route. Indulge me. Aaron's voice was tight, and Nora looked at him curiously. Are you okay? You've been weird all morning. I'm fine, just trust me. They rounded a corner and came to the spot where Biscuit had chased that fateful cat months ago. Aaron had chosen this location carefully, the place where everything had changed, where panic had turned to partnership, where a search had become something more. Aaron, why are we... Nora stopped as Aaron unclipped Biscuit's leash. The dog immediately trotted to a nearby bench where Marcus, Kelly, Emma, Mrs. Patterson and Linda were waiting with barely contained excitement. They'd been hiding behind trees, and now they emerged with cameras and ridiculous grins. What is happening? Nora's heart started racing. Aaron took both her hands in his, and she noticed they were trembling. His amber eyes were bright with emotion, his jaw tight with nerves. Nora Bennett, 4 months ago you moved into my house and turned my entire world upside down. You let Biscuit sleep on the couch. You said I could. And you reorganized my kitchen so nothing is where it's supposed to be. It's called intuitive placement. And you leave books everywhere and sing off-key in the shower and make me laugh at the most inappropriate times during surgery consultations. That was one time, and you were being too serious about a cat's dental cleaning. Aaron laughed, tears already forming in his eyes. You're doing it right now, interrupting my proposal. Nora's breath caught. You're what? He dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box, and Nora's hands flew to her mouth. I had this whole speech planned. I practiced it 17 times with Biscuit, but now that I'm here, looking at you, all I can think is that I want forever. Not because I'm not scared anymore, I'm terrified, but because you're worth being terrified for. Because loving you is the best thing I've ever done, even when it's messy and chaotic and nothing like my perfectly organized life used to be. He opened the box to reveal a simple, stunning diamond ring. Nora, you stole my dog and my heart, and every carefully constructed wall I'd built. You make me want to be spontaneous and brave and better. You make me want to dance in the kitchen at midnight and take unplanned road trips and maybe, someday, have tiny humans who hopefully get your sense of adventure and not my need for color-coded filing systems. Nora was crying openly now, mascara running, nose red, completely unglamorous and absolutely perfect. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and my partner and the person who keeps me from taking life too seriously? Will you let me love you for the rest of our lives? She didn't even let him finish. Yes, 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 yes. Aaron barely got the ring on her finger before she launched herself at him, and they both went tumbling onto the grass, laughing and crying and kissing while their friends cheered and Biscuit barked excitedly and jumped on top of them both. "I love you," Nora said between kisses. "I love you so much. I love you more." "Not possible." "Definitely possible. We're arguing at our engagement. We argue about everything. Why stop now?" They kissed again, deeper this time, and Aaron felt something settle in his chest. Peace, happiness, home. Later, celebrating at Marcus and Kelly's house with champagne and terrible engagement party planning already underway, Aaron pulled Nora aside on the back porch, the same porch where he'd almost told her his feelings months ago. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for pushing me and challenging me and making me face my fears." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "For stealing my dog and changing my life. Best impulsive decision I ever made." "Second best," he corrected. "The best will be marrying me." "Confident, aren't we?" "About you? Always." They stood in the fairy lights, exactly where they'd stood all those months ago, and kissed like it was the first time and the 1,000th time all at once. This time no emergency interrupted them. This time they had forever. 1 year later. The house was perfect chaos. Nora stood in the doorway of the nursery, one hand resting on her 7-month pregnant belly, watching her husband struggle with what appeared to be a piece of modern art, but was supposedly a crib. "Are you sure you don't want help?" she asked, trying not to laugh. "I'm a surgeon. I can handle basic furniture assembly." Aaron glared at the instruction manual. "These directions are in Swedish." "They're definitely in English, honey." "Well, they might as well be Swedish because they make no sense." He sat back on his heels, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Biscuit, lying in the corner with 2 adopted cats, Peanut and Butter, watched with what could only be described as amusement. Nora waddled over and lowered herself carefully to the floor beside him, groaning slightly. "You okay?" Aaron immediately abandoned the crib, his hands going to her belly. "Fine. Baby's just using my bladder as a trampoline." She leaned into him. "How did we get here?" "You stole my dog." "I rescued your dog." "Same thing." He kissed her temple. "Best day of my life. Meeting me or the day I stole your dog?" "Both. They're the same day." She smiled, placing her hand over his on her belly. Their baby kicked, and Aaron's face lit up with wonder like it did every single time. "We need to decide on names," Nora said. "I've been thinking about that." "Oh no. Did you make a spreadsheet?" "Maybe." "Aaron." "What? I wanted to organize our options. I have them categorized by origin, meaning, and how they sound with Mitchell." "You're insane. You married me." "My biggest mistake," she teased, and he tickled her side gently until she squealed. Okay, tell me your organized name options." "Well, for a boy I was thinking something traditional. William, James, Henry." "Boring." "They're classic." "They're boring." "What about something fun? Like Jasper or Felix, or we're not naming our son after a cartoon cat." "Felix is a perfectly respectable name." "For a cat, maybe." They bickered good-naturedly, while Aaron finally managed to assemble the crib with Nora's help, which mainly consisted of her reading the actual instructions, while he pretended his way hadn't been exactly the same. When it was done, they stood back to admire their work. The nursery was coming together. Soft yellow walls, white furniture, shelves already loaded with books Nora insisted their child would need from day one. "We're really doing this," Aaron said softly, pulling her back against his chest, his arms wrapping around her and their baby. "We're having a baby." "Terrified?" "Absolutely." "You?" "Beyond terrified, but also excited." "Me too." He pressed a kiss to her neck. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being brave enough to steal my dog. For being patient with my neuroses. For saying yes when I asked you to marry me. For giving me this—" His hand splayed across her belly. "This family I never thought I'd have." Nora turned in his arms, having to lean back awkwardly because of her belly, and cupped his face. "Thank you for being worth the risk, for showing up every single day, for loving me even when I'm hormonal and crying over dog food commercials." That commercial was emotional. The puppy found his way home. "See, you get it." They kissed softly, sweetly, the kind of kiss that promised forever and meant it. "Hannah would have loved this," Nora said quietly. "She would have loved being an aunt." Aaron's eyes misted. She would have. And she would have laughed at how we met and told me I was an idiot for almost letting you go. She'd be right. I know. He rested his forehead against hers. I think she sent you to me, somehow. Through Biscuit. Maybe she did. They stood in their almost finished nursery, surrounded by evidence of the life they'd built together. A life full of love and laughter and rescued animals and friendly arguments about everything from dog food to baby names. So, Aaron said, pulling back to look at her, what do you really think about the name Eleanor? For a girl, I love it. Eleanor Mitchell, Ellie for short. And for a boy, honestly, I kind of love William. We could call him Liam. Aaron's smile was radiant. Yeah, William Aaron Mitchell, after his dad. You want to use my name? Of course I do. You're going to be an amazing father, Aaron, just like you're an amazing husband and an amazing veterinarian and an amazing human, even though I'm neurotic and controlling. Especially because you're neurotic and controlling. It means our kid will always be on time and properly vaccinated and will know the importance of a well-organized filing system. He laughed. That full, unguarded laugh she'd worked so hard to earn, and now heard every single day. From his spot on the floor, Biscuit woofed softly, as if giving his approval to the entire conversation. What do you think, boy? Aaron asked the dog. Ready to be a big brother? Biscuit's tail thumped enthusiastically. I'll take that as a yes. They eventually made their way to bed, exhausted from a day of furniture assembly and name debating. As they lay tangled together, Nora's head on Aaron's chest, his hand resting protectively on her belly, he whispered into the darkness, "Thank you for stealing my dog." Nora smiled, pressing a kiss over his heart. It was the best mistake of my life. Not a mistake, Aaron corrected. The best decision, the best impulse, the best everything. Okay, fine. It was the best grand theft canine of my life. Better. Outside, a car passed by, its headlights briefly illuminating the room. In that moment, Aaron saw everything he never knew he wanted. His wife, his baby, his dog, his home, his family. All because a kind-hearted woman had seen a golden retriever sitting alone on a sidewalk and decided to rescue him. She'd ended up rescuing them both. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," she murmured, already half asleep. "Even if you did make a spreadsheet for baby names. Especially because I made a spreadsheet for baby names. Weirdo. You're weirdo. Forever." "Forever," he agreed. And in the corner of the room, Biscuit settled into his bed with a contented sigh, his job finally complete. He'd brought them together, kept them together, and now got to witness the happy ending he'd somehow known was coming all along. Good boy indeed. Leave your comment and share this story with someone special. It truly helps us keep bringing new stories to you. And if you want to follow every chapter of this emotional journey, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your support makes all the difference.